Yeah, I hope you guys can see my screen. So, yeah, so like I told previously, in today's class, I was actually have to discuss on AWS Redshift, which is very important concept, and it's like very long concept. It's not a shorter concept that I can easily explain you like AWS Glue and Lambda items. Uh, but I want to show some sample practical example, like some small project to work on Redshift using S3 migration of data or some collection of data from S3 to the Redshift. But before that, I have to make you understand some network concepts in the AWS. So I was thinking I have covered most of the concepts like EC2, S3, Lambda, Glue, basic resources I have explained to you guys. But yeah, this is very important concept basically. But at least a small understanding or minimum understanding of the network is I believe that's really important. Either it's AWS, Azure, or GCP, anything. Minimum understanding of this is important. And the thing which I was planning to show some practical things in what I say in Redshift, uh, you guys need to understand this network concepts. Without this, if I just go and work on my things, you guys may get confused. So what I thought was before going into that, I have to make you guys understand what's network items or network things in this AWS here. So guys, I have told you we are creating EC2 instances. That means we are creating a EC2 one server to which we can connect and work. This is our system. We are connecting to other server. We are connecting to another system using the server, which is server. So there we are working. So we are talking simply in the like front end. We are simply saying we are connecting. How we are connecting? What's running in the background? So we just need a basic understanding of this. How and what.
Not just with the basic understanding. Even ఎవడాడు
So coming to the virtual private, there is a concept called VPC. It's virtual private cloud. That is isolated network within AWS cloud or anywhere. It's not only AWS, it's like isolated network. Like I said, every device has its own IP address. You guys know, you guys used VPNs when using games, right? PUBG or whatever. So you guys know for every system there is an IP address. So if there is a company with uh, uh, 50 employees, each one of them having a 50 devices, every devices or the servers they are using, they need to have a specific IP address for them assigned. So whatever a company is, if they're managing servers or devices, they will definitely have a IP addresses, and that's their network. So here, like I said, a server or a system consists of everything, like your laptop, your computer consists of many items. What you will be having? Operating system, applications, network items, connectivity. You have all these items, right? So network is also the important concept, right? To connect. So in day-to-day life, when you work with operating systems, applications, and many items, you will work with network also. That's the main concept. Basically, we don't focus, but that's what running in the background. So there is something called VPC. That's the main thing. It's isolated network within the AWS cloud. Let me show it. Yes, console. Okay. Isolated cloud resources. Yeah. So, like I previously shown you guys, I have created a EC2 instance, right? Last time when I created EC2 instance, there already you got an IP address. I don't know if you guys remember or not. When I created an EC2 instances, I selected memory. I selected how much RAM I need. I selected how much capacity I'm gonna use, which operating system I gonna use. So there I have selected these network items also by defaultly. I haven't created to avoid confusion. So there is called VPC. For every company, there would be a network. Let me show you in this image. So, for example, uh, like I said, there are regions, concept called regions and availability zones. Try to understand my words carefully. Without that, you will confuse in the network concepts. So, like I said, you have data centers. You know data centers. We have heard many times, right? In Hyderabad, there is a data center is getting opened. Um, Varun, can you post it in the chat, please? So we have here like new data centers coming in Vizag or Hyderabad. So basically, any cloud platform, any these ones are having what I say data centers. So that's a region. For example, Hyderabad is one of the region for the AWS. Like if they are having data centers in the Mumbai, that's another data center there. So coming to the data centers, in the data centers, you will be having data centers called as treated as region. In that region, you will be having multiple zones, availability zones. Like I said, in Hyderabad, that's a single data center, but in there, you will be having multiple availability zones in which your servers are placed. So that if you opt for multi-zone data mapping or whatever, so if some one of the availability zone in that region is collapsed or destroyed or whatever happened, you still have other two availability zones in the same regions as a backup. That's how it works. So, like for VPCs also, we have to assign. For example, let's assume we have a browse website, Amazon, Flipkart, you have wrote a code for that. That's a project. For example, let's assume you have a project, Amazon, Flipkart. You have to deploy it somewhere, right? You have your application ready. You have to deploy it somewhere to work on it. Where you should work on it? You will select a zone network where you wanted to deploy that items. You got it right. So you will mention where you have to deploy, where you wanted to deploy. For example, Flipkart. If you see Flipkart, no, if you see Amazon, if you log in India, you will get everything according to India. Like you'll get it will show you the prices in rupees. When you try to log in same Amazon in USA, try to show you in dollars. So Amazon is deployed in multiple zones, multiple regions. So that's how it's working. But Flipkart, if you say, Myntra, if you see, that's only meant for India. I mean, it's only existing in India. There is no services outside the country. So even if you log in from India, USA, you can still see the prices of Flipkart in India because that's only deployed in India. So, for example, if you feel like for your business need that's only country needed, you have to just go to your VPN when you're configuring the deployments. You have to select that region, like in India, Mumbai, which availability zone, how many availability zones you have to select there. You got it right. That's how VPC you can say it as uh, a network. Virtual private network, where through which you can connect to the outer side services. Let me go deeply inside this. Don't get confused. If you still confused, I have doubts, I'll make it clear in this next topics. So basically, you have EC2 instances. For example, you have created 10 EC2 instances. So you will be what I say having 10 IP addresses. For example, if you need 10 EC2 instances for your company, you'll be having 10 IP addresses. IP addresses are not free. Those are paid. Those are availability. Like you have to buy. So basically, like EC2 instances we are buying, basically we are using free tier from AWS. That's why we are not getting to know. But in real time, if you need some IP address, you have to pay for it. So this network VPC that can be shared or can be private also. So when I'm talking about cloud platforms, you can access to AWS, I mean Amazon, you can access to Flipkart. That's public, right? So for example, if you are going inside the park in the daytime, gate is not closed, you are open. That means that's a public. If you go to some consider some government official buildings, you can't go inside. That's a private. So there are two types of networks all time: virtual public internet and private net. So let me go deep dive into this. So before that, I want to talk about IP addresses concept here. Uh, okay. Somebody raised hand. I don't know, but I want if you guys have any queries, please post in the chat so that I can answer at the end instead of like interrupting here. So I don't know. Varun haven't posted his question in chat. So yeah, when you talk about when I'm talking about this, what I say, data centers in that availability zones will be there. In availability zones, you will be having VPs. So this is a region. Inside region, if you observe, for example, this is Mumbai region. Inside region, like I said, there will be multiple availability zones. In that, subnets are there. There is a concept called subnet. I'm telling a overview. A network will, a company will be having a network. I'm simply saying, but that's divided into subnets, small or segmented part of large network. That's called subnet. You got it? For example, if you are taking 50 IP addresses, you are saying, hey, Amazon, you are saying AWS that, hey, I need 50 IP addresses because I have 50 systems in my, I'm gonna, instead, like if you're saying 50 IPs, that means indirectly you're saying I'm using 50 EC2 instances. You need 50 servers. That means you are gonna use 50 IP addresses, right? For each server, you will utilize one IP. That's 50 IPs. You are buying overall 50 IPs. But you felt like, okay, for public, let's use 30 IPs, and for private, let's use 20 IPs. Public use for public customers access, private is for your internal items where outer side guys cannot connect to that network. Not every websites are connectable, right? Only you can access some networks, but some networks will say this is private network. You can't access this. You are not authorized. So for example, if you felt your company felt like, okay, 50 IP addresses, let's make it public so that customers can access it. Let's make 10 IP addresses private so that let's keep our internal or core or private data inside that only so that employees only can access it, not public people. So subnets basically, for example, let's take this is a VPC overall. Inside there will be a subnet, two subnets. One is public, inside this public. So for example, you have 50 IPs, you can divide subnet as 40 IPs and another private subnet as 10 IPs. See, subnet public, subnet private. This is entire is VPC, your network only, your company network only, nothing changed, but you are assigning it like this, you are splitting it like here. So there is something called CIDR, classless interdomain. This one, Roshan. What this does? Like I said, we use IPv4 as IP address. You see IP addresses in this format, right? 913 dot 0 dot 0 dot 0 dot like this. You will see in this format. So we are using IPv4. We're gonna assign CIDR is gonna assign you how many IP addresses you need. For example, if I'm applying 16 here, there is some meaning here. Let me show you. It's not simple one. So uh, maybe this is little confusing, but just try to understand. Simple concept is enough here. I see if I'm giving 0 0. See, if I'm giving 16 here, I am getting 65,000 IP addresses. That means I can use 65,000 servers, EC2 instances in my company. Like I mean, that means I'm not going to use the entire thing, but I'm taking this much of buffer. Hey, I need this many IP addresses. If you take, so it is saying Up to 16 to 28 only you can use, I believe. See, 28 is the minimum. Minimum 16 count. So if you are asking this when you are creating VPCs in AWS, that means you are saying, I need just 16 account. So let me show it practically instead of talking theoretically until now. So let me go here. VPC, isolated cloud resource, your VPC. This is a default VPC that gets created automatically. So let me create a VPC. You can name your VPC, my VPC. Okay. IPv CIDR, you can give how many you want. Okay. Let me show 10 dot, sorry, 10 dot 0 dot 0 dot 0 slash 24, 28. It is saying CIDR block must be up to 16 to 28. I don't want to explain all that science because I don't think we have many network candidates in our team. So I don't think that much specifically we need it here. So if you are giving 28 here when you are creating, so only it means this basically this website will tell you what's happening. See, this tells you, hey, if you're giving 28 here, you're gonna use 16 only. You can use this. So basically this helps you understand that CIDR.xyz. Okay, this is how you're gonna create VPC here, VPC network. Okay. Okay. So that's how subnet works. Subnet basically divides your VPC into multiple parts so that you can use it for different purposes. You can make your network into small segments, different segments, like different availability zones. Okay. So yeah, when somebody try to access, or when some network is going outside, you have your network, some requests have to go outside, right? It goes through internet gateway. You are inside home, you have to go out somewhere with some IP address. That's internet gateway. You have your gate, that's internet gateway. And then you can access it through cloud. Let me make it clear in the next steps. There is something called routing table. There is subnet, internet. Inside these subnets, you have EC2 instances. For example, this is a subnet consisting of 10 IP addresses. Let's assume the subnet is assigned with 10 IP addresses. That means inside this, let's assume 10 EC2 instances are there. We have to send some request. What happens? The signal goes outside traffic. Here between internet gateway and subnet, there is something called routing table. Routing table is set of rules basically. Where to forward? Hey, you have requested. Where I have to send this? That rule will be inside routing table. You have to post some letter. You have to mention it, right? Where I have to go, which side I have to go, to which application, where I have to go. That basically routing table consists of rules. Then from there, internet gateway, through the gate, you will go outside that request. I'm trying to explain you in the simple terms. Before this, let me go here. And when creating VPCs, let me show you VPC and more. Like I said you, there are something called subnets. Here VPC, only VPC. I haven't talked about, it's not asking about anything about subnets. Let's see how subnet works here. There is something called VPC and more here, right? Uh, Auto generate a project, CIDR block. It's saying, hey, if you're taking by 16, AWS automatically saying you're taking 65, 536 IPs here. Try to understand here. This is important. So let me show this one. Instead of that, let me make it simple. So it's saying, hey, now you're gonna utilize only 16 IPs. The CIDR block, what it is doing? When I'm giving count, it is assigning me IP addresses, how many you want. That's how CIDR works. No IPv6, we are using IPv4 format. And in how many availability zones you want? Let me take 3 availability zones in a region. Always understand. That means in Ohio, for example, there are 3 availability zones. For example, in Ohio, in this region, there are 3 availability zones. It's asking for you. You need only one availability zone. Choose number of availability zones in which two provision subnets. Only one availability zone. or two or three, they are requesting at least two availability zones so that if one get crashed, we will still having another one for the high availability. Let me take two or three. Uh, Three. Okay. Number of subnets. How many number of private subnets you need? How many number of public subnets you need? It asking me, like I said you, right? Hey, you have subnets. You need maybe you can select to zero. You may feel like, okay, let me make 16 IP addresses public. I don't need any private. You don't need for yourself privately. You want everything to be public. Then you'll just go and click two public subnets. So what it will do? Your VPC is like 16 IP, you have total 16 IP addresses. Two subnets will share 8. But you are saying no, I need two public subnets and two private subnets. So each subnet consists of two one. Like for example, let me show you pictographically. So NAT gateway, I'll try to explain this. So basically choose the availability zone in which to create NAT gateway. So basically NAT gateway, I'll show you. That's coming in another point. VPC endpoints, I'll show you what are all those things. So yeah, this gives you pictorial visualization. So it is saying, hey, if you're creating project VPC, there are four subnets. Why? We have selected two public subnets, two private subnets. So total four subnets. We have VPC, it's coming to your network from here. We have four here. After VPC, this is C hierarchy. VPC, subnet, then routing table, then gateway through which it should go signal outside traffic. VPC, subnet. This is one. This going to public. How many public IPs you selected? So this request goes to public and this goes to private. And this one, you have selected two availability zones. US is 2A. US in Ohio, there are two availability zones, which it is automatically taking. We given only two availability zones, right? This is how it's getting splitted. So public, that goes to public. See, if I'm clicking on public, this is how it's working. See the water flow, like blue flow. If I'm selecting private, only each one. For each one, different routing table. So you will be having network, inside will be having subnets, and public goes to public, private goes to private. You have all this net settings to be configured. Let me show you. So if it's public, this goes through this gateway. In this routing table, you will be having rules where I should send it, through which I have to send it. These rules. In this routing tables, you will have it. Basically, this we will configure when we are creating. So that's what I said. So you need basic understanding, not this much needed for the Redshift, and I don't think this is much needed for us. So I'm trying to give you brief overview. Okay. So if you see that, if you see there are subnets concept. We have three subnets. If you go to the subnet inside, it is saying this is your subnet ID, this is your IPv4, these are the availability zones. See, you will be going VPC. This is the main VPC in which you have three subnets. If you go to this VPC, there are three VPCs. Like I shown you previous image, this is defaultly created. I haven't created, to be honest. So this is VPC. It is connected to three subnets, and three are connected to this routing table and then to a network gateway. So if I go into the subnet, it will say, hey, this subnet is linked to this one. This subnet is linked to this one. Okay, or from here you can see this VPC have how many subnets here. So this is how you can understand routing table. If I go into the routing table, in routing table, you'll be having rules, destination, I mean target, where you have to go. Through this gateway, it should go outside. Internet gateway. We have to select here, like through which you have to go. Okay. Uh, Let me go quickly into the another concepts. Okay, routing table is like set of rules, I said. Security groups. There is a concept called security group here. What is security group? Security groups is also a set of rules, inbound and outbound rules. If you see here, if you go into any, see this is all VPC IDs. If I'm going to the, you can assign the security group. Security is a group is also rules. which you will assign to VPC ID. What rules, like IAM, you are assigning to S3. What are the resources that you are gonna use? Identity, you are assigning roles. Here also, you are assigning the security groups to the VPC. If you go here, sorry, that's my mistake. I'm going to the security group. See, this is security group. We have inbound, outbound rules. What is inbound, outbound rule? You are giving https://www.google.com. When someone have to come inside your home, you are giving them permission. Hey, if somebody given this code at the door, then give them access to come inside. If not, don't give them. If I'm giving https://aws.amazon.com, why you should go? Like, why I'm going inside? It's not like that's a pattern how it should work. Because that website guy, aws.amazon, www.amazon.guy, giving us inbound access. Hey, if somebody given HTTP type, accessing this port, give them access. That's why we are able to access that website. If he offs that or if he removes that, we can't access that website. Inbound, coming inside to the website when there somebody is diving into the website. Outbound rules. When something is going outside traffic, that's the rules. Hey, to which I should go? What's the destination? Where it should go? 0000. So public. There is nothing. There is no restriction for this. That's how security groups works. So that's inbound and outbound rules. More of inbound and outbound rules. There is something called network ACLs, access control list. This both looks like rules, but basically this work on subnet level. Like this is specifically to the subnet. From subnet, if something is coming and going, you will work whether I should allow this or not, whether I should consider this or not. This traffic, should I restrict this or traffic, or some traffic is coming to the subnet. They like security groups have inbound and outbound. Your network ACLs have allow or deny. Basically, in security groups, basically you will allow only. There is nothing like deny here. In network ACLs, you have option to deny also when something is coming. So it basically it's this is network ACLs are at subnet levels. You can assign this ACLs shared for everyone, or you can create for the separate one. There is something called NAT. When I'm trying to create VPC, said you right. There is NAT. I will explain you different separately. So, uh, so there is some private network, private subnet. If you want to access it over internet, like what I can say, this is one way. For example, uh, this is subnet. This is private subnet. What I said with to private website subnet, you can't access. That is private. Outsiders can't access it. That is not public, right? You can access AWS dot I mean www.amazon.com, but you can't visit US government or Indian government websites, which they are trying to restrict, which are private. But those websites also, those instances also need some upgrades, right? They may need internet access. They may have to work with internet. Maybe they are not allowing us, but for them also they need the traffic to go outside. So NAT is nothing but a private subnet. Basically, it tries to connect with the internet or AWS services, anything. That's like one way, not two way. Coming to the giving request to the public, I mean response to the public, and public giving request to the subnet. It's not like that. It's just one way for them. That's how NAT is work. That's a NAT gateway, we can say. VPC peering. So basically, for example, there are two VPCs for a company. For example, we have Flipkart in India only. We want to establish that in USA. So that's another VPC. To privately connect those two, we use something called VPC peering there. So when there are different networks, we don't want outsider to access, but we want to access it because that's our website, that's our company. To connect two VPCs in the different region privately, we can use concept called VPC peering there. And there is something called VPC endpoint, allows to privately connect to VPN to support AWS services. So basically, uh, for example, what I can say, we have S3, AWS, S3 buckets, all these things, right? Those are all AWS services only. But you have private network. you can still connect to the AWS services. Like you can give them, hey, to which endpoint you want to connect privately. You can connect this VPC endpoint. That's private thing between the subnet and that AWS resources or services, anything. There is something called bastion host. There may be some scenarios where you want to connect with private subnet. Private subnet you can't access from the internet. That's private. That's restricted. So what you will use before private network, you will be connecting a public subnet. Basically, this public subnet and private subnet is having a connection. So using internet, you will connect to the public. Through public, you are gonna access the private. Got it right. Like sometimes you see we don't directly work for Microsoft, but through the vendors or clients, we work for the Microsoft. That's how it is. You can't directly work there, but using the subnets, I mean, public subnet, which is assigned to the private subnet, you can access through the internet. That's called bastion host. So these are the basic concepts of the subnets, like network, these concepts. So if you don't want this briefly, you can ignore. If you want to learn more about this, you can still um, understand this more from this website also, which I said cidr.xyz, where you can understand the concept called subnets and CIDRs, all these blocks you can understand here. Okay. That's not that much important, but AWS Redshift today is a very big concept. So to understand that, I'm planning to do something with this. So before that configuration, which I'm doing for gonna do for Redshift, I'm doing some selections of subnets, all these items there. So I felt like maybe you guys need little understanding of this subnet concepts. So I can cover that Redshift concept tomorrow, but I wanna just give you a good or brief glimpse on the Redshift. What is the Redshift? Basically, I can give you simple scenario. Simple. We will be having incoming files, flat files, operating system. You will be having receiving a data from somewhere outside. Raw data. Okay. It's not organized. It's raw data. It's clumsy. It's not clear, perfect. Using ETL tools, which I said, you will transform it data according to the client requirement, and you will store that in a data warehouse. Like I said, a data warehouse will be having the entire collection of large data, either it may be metadata, um, multiple source data, all these items there. And you will transform and you will use this data warehouse items or large data sets to analyze. Redshift allows you to store and analyze. So you can analyze it for, I mean, use it for reporting, data mining, for your business needs. For example, you are working with a Flipkart. So you will be having a data warehouse. What you will do? From there, you will try to analyze, okay, this product is getting sold more. This product is having much demand. Okay, this product is gonna newly coming. So this product is not getting sold. What we have to do? We have to keep some more offers for that. So this is all analyzing, right? You are storing the raw data, but you are transforming it into neat data. Like you can't read some clumsy data. You are trying to make it organized. You are trying to do some delete the unwanted columns, tables from there. So using ETL, you're transforming, and from there you transform it and use it for business needs, whether it for mining, reporting, and many things. Okay, online analyzing. So overall, what I can say, it's basically use it for gathering the data, applying the business transformations, and enabling the business to take business. Like you can uh, undergo business understanding needs and what's the demand of that product or whatever it is. So data source, data server, and online analytics and output. Like what is output? You will be using it for analysis, for different analysis. Okay, this is what the Redshift is more about. But I have to. There is pretty much deep into the Redshift. It's not a simple concept. There is little complex. So which I wanna take more on that. So before that, this is the item that I wanted to make you guys understand. Um, yeah, that's it for today. I wanna share on this network part, and then tomorrow it's on Redshift.